During Thanksgiving dinner, my daughter said, "Let's be honest, he's only still here out of pity." The table went quiet. I stood, smiled, and left my keys on the counter. The next morning, the bank called them first. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up 6 hours. The house smelled like burnt sugar and anxiety. My daughter Emily had been cooking since dawn, trying to prove something to nobody in particular. Her husband Derek sat at the head of my dining room table. My table, in my house, though the paperwork apparently disagreed, scrolling through his phone with the kind of aggressive disinterest that said he'd rather be anywhere else. My son Jason was late. Not unusual. He'd been late to everything since he turned 16 and discovered that other people's time didn't matter as much as his own convenience. I was setting out the good plates, the ones my ex-wife Linda had registered for 28 years ago, back when we still believed in the kind of future where holiday dinners meant something. Emily watched me from the kitchen doorway, her arms crossed. "You don't need to use those," she said. "They're Thanksgiving plates. They're a pain to wash." "Then I'll wash them." She made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sigh. "You don't live here anymore, Dad. You don't have to perform domesticity." I set down the last plate carefully. I'm setting a table, not performing. "Same thing." Derek looked up from his phone long enough to smirk. I caught it in my peripheral vision, the kind of smirk that said he and Emily had discussed this, had workshopped their little interventions, had decided together how best to manage the inconvenient reality of my continued existence in their lives. I was 51 years old. I'd spent the last 26 years as a commercial building inspector for the city, which meant I knew how to read documents, how to spot structural weakness, how to identify the difference between what people said a building could handle and what it actually could. I'd applied those same skills to my marriage, watching it settle and crack for years before Linda finally moved out. The divorce had been civil, boring even. We'd split everything down the middle with the kind of mathematical precision that made our lawyers rich and our friends uncomfortable. The house had gone to me, or so I'd thought. Jason arrived at 4:30, half an hour late, with his girlfriend Amanda. She was new. The last one had been named Michelle, or maybe Monica. I'd stopped trying to keep track somewhere around girlfriend number 7. "Traffic," Jason said, not looking at me. "On Thanksgiving." You'd be surprised. I wouldn't be. I'd driven the same roads for 26 years. There was no traffic. We sat down to eat at 5. Emily had made turkey, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, cranberry sauce from a can that she'd tried to hide in a crystal bowl, and something she called artisanal stuffing that tasted like cardboard soaked in rosemary. Derek said grace. He'd never struck me as particularly religious, but he performed it with the same smooth confidence he brought to everything else, the sense that he was doing everyone a favor just by participating. "Amen," we all mumbled. Except Emily, who said it like she meant it. The first 20 minutes passed in the usual awkward silence, punctuated by requests for salt and observations about the weather. Amanda asked polite questions about my work. I gave polite answers. Jason ate like he was being timed. Then Derek cleared his throat. "So," he said, setting down his fork with deliberate precision, "Emily and I have been talking. Here it comes," I thought. "We think it might be time to have a real conversation about the future." "The future," I repeated. "Your future," Emily clarified. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at her plate, moving mashed potatoes around with her fork like she was solving a puzzle. "I have a future?" "Dad." Her voice had that edge, the one that said I was being difficult on purpose, that I was making this harder than it needed to be. Derek stepped in, smooth as oil. "What Emily means is that we're concerned about your living situation. My living situation. You're still in the house. It's my house." "Legally," Derek said and paused. "It's complicated." I looked at Emily. She was still moving potatoes around. Jason had stopped eating and was staring at his phone under the table, pretending not to listen. Amanda looked like she wanted to crawl under her chair and die. "How is it complicated?" I asked. Derek glanced at Emily. She glanced back. Some kind of silent communication passed between them, the kind of practiced coordination that comes from countless prior discussions that hadn't included me. "There were some documents," Emily said quietly. "After the divorce, you signed them." "I signed a lot of documents." "These were specific." "Specific how?" "They transferred certain authorities." I set down my fork. "What authorities?" "Financial," Derek said. "Medical, property management." The room tilted slightly, not literally, but something in my inner ear suggested that the floor wasn't quite as level as I'd thought. "When?" 18 months ago, Emily said. She was still not looking at me. "You were stressed. The divorce was messy. I thought it would help to take some of the burden off you. The burden of owning my own house. The burden of managing everything alone. I didn't ask for help. You didn't have to." Her voice cracked slightly. "You're our father. We're supposed to take care of you." "I'm 51, not 81. "You're not getting younger," Derek said, like he was pointing out the weather. Jason finally looked up from his phone. "Maybe we should talk about this later." "Later when?" I asked. "When everyone's calmer." "I'm calm." "You don't sound calm." I picked up my fork again, put it down, picked it up. The weight of it felt wrong, like everything in the room had shifted slightly to the left, and I was the only one who'd noticed. "So, let me understand this," I said slowly. 18 months ago, I signed documents that gave you control of my property, my finances, my medical decisions. "Not control," Emily said quickly. "Authority, in case of emergency." "What emergency?" She finally looked at me. Her eyes were red. "Dad, you were drinking." The room went silent again. Different kind of silent. The kind where everyone stops pretending they're not listening. "I had 3 beers a week." "You had 3 beers a night." "That's not—" "I found the recycling bin," she said. Her voice was steady now, harder. "I counted." I wanted to argue, wanted to explain that she'd counted wrong, that she'd mistaken my bottles for someone else's, that the math didn't work. But the truth was simpler and worse. I didn't remember. The 6 months after Linda left were a blur of paperwork and television, and yes, okay, beer. Maybe more than 3 a night, maybe significantly more. But I'd stopped. Cold. The day I woke up and realized I'd missed a safety inspection because I'd been too hungover to drive. I'd poured every bottle down the sink and hadn't touched alcohol since. That had been 14 months ago, 4 months after I'd signed whatever the hell Emily was talking about. "I stopped drinking," I said. "We know," Derek said, "and we're proud of you." The condescension in his voice made my teeth hurt. "But the documents are still active," I said. "They're precautionary," Emily said. "Precautionary." "Yes. So I can revoke them." She hesitated. Derek didn't. "Technically," he said, "but it would be complicated." "You keep saying that word." "Because it's true." He leaned back in his chair, the picture of reasonable authority. "The documents are structured in a way that protects everyone's interests, yours included. If you tried to revoke them unilaterally, it would trigger a review process. Lawyers, evaluations. It would be expensive and stressful and ultimately unnecessary." "Unnecessary for who?" "For everyone." I looked at Jason. "You knew about this?" He shrugged. "Emily handles the family stuff." "The family stuff. You know what I mean." I did. I knew exactly what he meant. He meant that he'd outsourced caring about me to his sister, and she'd outsourced it to her husband, and somewhere in that chain of delegation, I'd become a problem to be managed rather than a person to be consulted. Amanda was staring at her cranberry sauce like it held the secrets of the universe. "So," I said, keeping my voice level. "Just to be clear, I don't own my house, I don't control my bank accounts, I don't make my own medical decisions." "You have full access to everything," Emily said quickly. "Nothing's changed day to day. We have oversight, in case." "In case of what?" "In case you need us." "I don't need you." The words came out harsher than I'd intended. Emily flinched. Derek's expression didn't change, which somehow made it worse. "Dad," Jason said. "Come on." "Come on what?" "Don't make this a thing." "It is a thing." "It's a safety net," Emily said. Her voice was pleading now. "That's all. We love you. We want to make sure you're okay. By taking away my autonomy. By making sure you don't hurt yourself." "I'm not hurting myself." "Not now," Derek said. "But 18 months ago. 18 months ago, I was going through a divorce and made some bad choices, which I corrected. By myself, without anyone's help." "You lost 15 pounds, Emily said. "You stopped showing up to family dinners. You missed Jason's birthday." "I was depressed, not incompetent." "Depression is a medical condition," Derek said, like he was reading from a textbook. "It impairs judgment. That's exactly why these kinds of arrangements exist." I stood up. The chair scraped against the hardwood loud enough to make everyone jump. "Where are you going?" Emily asked. "I need air." "Dad, I need air." I walked out of the dining room, through the kitchen, onto the back porch. The November cold hit me like a slap. I should have grabbed a jacket, but going back inside felt impossible. Behind me, I heard voices. Low, urgent. Derek's smooth baritone. Emily's higher register, defensive. Jason saying something about letting him cool off. I stood there for 5 minutes, maybe 10. Long enough for the cold to seep through my shirt and make my hands shake. When I went back inside, they were clearing the table. Emily looked up. "Do you want pie?" "No. It's pumpkin, your favorite." "I'm not hungry." She set down a stack of plates. "Dad, please, let's just have dessert and talk about something else." "What else is there to talk about?" "Anything, work, the weather, Jason's new job." "I didn't know Jason had a new job." Jason looked up from his phone. "I'm doing freelance consulting." "For who?" "Various clients." "That's not an answer." "It's the answer you're getting." Derek cut in again, ever the mediator. "What I think Emily is trying to say is that we're still a family, documents or no documents. Nothing has to change." "Everything has changed." "Only if you let it." I looked at him. Really looked at him. Mid-30s, good haircut, expensive watch, the kind of soft hands that said he'd never fixed anything in his life. He was sitting in my chair, at my table, in my house, except none of it was mine anymore, apparently. It was Emily's, or his, or theirs, some collective entity that had decided I was too broken to be trusted with my own life. And the worst part, the part that made my stomach turn, was that Emily was nodding along. My daughter. The girl I'd taught to ride a bike and driven to soccer practice and walked down the aisle 3 years ago. She was nodding like Derek was making perfect sense. "Let's be honest," she said quietly. Here it was, the real conversation, the one they'd been building toward all night. "Let's be honest," she said again. "You're only still here out of pity." The table went quiet. Not the awkward quiet from before, a different kind. The kind that happens when someone says the thing everyone was thinking, but nobody was supposed to say out loud. Amanda stared at her plate. Jason's jaw tightened. Derek didn't move, didn't react, which meant he'd known this was coming. They'd planned this, maybe not the exact words, but the shape of it, the intervention, the tough love, the necessary cruelty. I stood up. This time nobody asked where I was going. I walked to the counter, pulled my keys from my pocket, and set them down carefully next to the coffee maker. The house keys, the car keys, everything. "What are you doing?" Emily asked. I didn't answer. I walked to the front door, grabbed my jacket from the coat rack, and stepped outside. Behind me, I heard chairs scraping, voices rising. "Dad!" "Let him go," Derek said. I got into my car, the one thing they hadn't taken, because I'd bought it with cash 2 months ago and never told anyone, and drove. I didn't know where I was going, just away. The streets were empty. Everyone was home with their families, eating pie, pretending everything was fine. I drove for 20 minutes before I realized I had nowhere to go. The house wasn't mine. Not really. My bank accounts were supervised. My medical decisions were delegated. My property was managed. I'd been erased, systematically and legally, by the people who claimed to love me. I pulled into a motel parking lot off Highway 52, the kind of place with hourly rates and a flickering neon sign that said vacancy in letters that hadn't all worked in years. The night clerk barely looked up when I paid cash for 3 nights. The room smelled like bleach and cigarettes. The TV got 4 channels. The bed was harder than the floor. I lay down, fully clothed, and stared at the ceiling. My phone buzzed. Text from Emily. "Dad, please come back, we can talk about this." Then Jason. "You're overreacting." Then Emily again. "We love you. This doesn't have to be a big deal." I turned off my phone. The ceiling had water stains shaped like continents. I traced them with my eyes, trying to remember when I'd stopped being a person and started being a problem. Somewhere around 3 a.m, I fell asleep. At 7, my phone rang. I'd turned it back on out of habit, the muscle memory of 26 years of early morning inspection calls. The number was unfamiliar. "Hello? Is this Richard Brennan?" "Yes." "This is Sandra Kowalski from First National Bank. I'm calling regarding your accounts." My stomach dropped. "What about them?" "There's been a freeze placed on your primary checking and savings accounts pending review of recent activity." "What activity?" "I'm not at liberty to discuss details over the phone, but you'll need to come into the branch with proper identification and documentation to resolve this." "What kind of documentation?" "Proof of identity, proof of address, and any legal documents related to your account management." "Account management." "Yes, sir. It appears there are multiple parties with authority over your accounts, and there's been a request to restrict access pending verification." "A request from who?" "I can't disclose that information over the phone." "It's my money." "Sir, I understand your frustration, but I'm going to need you to come into the branch. We open at 9. She hung up. I sat on the edge of the motel bed, holding my phone, trying to breathe. They'd frozen my accounts. Not might freeze. Had frozen. While I was sleeping in a motel room with water-stained ceilings and a TV that barely worked, my daughter and her husband had called the bank, my bank, the one I'd used for 19 years, and locked me out of my own money. I checked my wallet. $83 in cash. The credit cards were probably frozen too, or would be soon. My phone buzzed again. Text from a number I didn't recognize. "This is Derek. Emily is very upset. You need to come home and apologize." Apologize. For what? For noticing I'd been legally erased? For objecting to my own dispossession? I typed back, "Go to hell." Then I deleted it and wrote, "I'll be in touch." Then I deleted that too and just turned off the phone again. The motel room was silent except for the hum of the heating unit and the occasional car passing on the highway. I'd spent my entire adult life being responsible, showing up on time, following the rules, doing the right thing. I'd raised 2 kids who'd turned into strangers. I'd stayed married to a woman who'd stopped loving me somewhere around year 15, but hadn't bothered to mention it until year 25. I'd saved money and invested carefully and planned for a future that apparently wasn't mine to plan for anymore. And now I was 51 years old, sitting in a motel room that smelled like failure, with $83 and a car that still had my name on the title. I stood up, splashed water on my face in the bathroom sink, looked at myself in the mirror. The man looking back was tired, thinner than he should be, gray at the temples, lines around the eyes that hadn't been there 5 years ago, but not broken, not yet. I dried my face with a towel that felt like sandpaper and walked out to my car. The bank opened at 9. I'd be there at 8:45. As the story unfolds, hit the hype button, like, subscribe, and write in the comments. Would you forgive them or walk away? The bank was a low brick building on the corner of 5th and Maple, the kind of place that had been built in the 70s and renovated badly in the 90s. I'd driven past it 1,000 times, deposited checks here, set up my direct deposit, opened a savings account for Emily when she was 6 years old. Now I sat in the parking lot at 8:43, watching employees arrive through the side entrance. A woman in her 60s with a rolling briefcase, a younger guy in a cheap suit carrying coffee, a manager type in business casual who walked like he owned the place. At exactly 9 o'clock, the front doors unlocked. I was the first one in. The lobby smelled like carpet cleaner and recycled air. Soft jazz played from hidden speakers. 3 teller windows, only one open. A waiting area with chairs that were meant to look expensive but weren't. "Welcome to First National," the teller said. She was young, maybe 25, with a name tag that said Brianna. "How can I help you today?" "I need to speak with Sandra Kowalski." "Do you have an appointment?" "She called me this morning about my accounts." Brianna's smile didn't change, but something shifted behind her eyes. "Let me check if she's available. Your name?" "Richard Brennan." She picked up a phone, pressed a button, spoke quietly. I caught fragments. "The account freeze. Yes. Okay." She hung up. "Ms. Kowalski will be right with you. Please have a seat." I sat in one of the fake expensive chairs and waited. 5 minutes passed, then 10. At 9:17, a woman in her 40s emerged from a hallway marked private. She wore a gray pantsuit and the kind of professional smile that said she'd handled difficult customers before. "Mr. Brennan, I'm Sandra Kowalski, branch manager. Would you like to come to my office?" I followed her down the hallway. Her office was small, windowless, decorated with stock photos of mountains and motivational posters about teamwork. She gestured to a chair across from her desk. "Thank you for coming in," she said, settling into her own chair. "I know this situation is frustrating. My accounts are frozen." "Not frozen. Restricted pending verification." "What's the difference?" "Frozen suggests criminal activity. This is an administrative hold." "Because?" She opened a folder on her desk. "According to our records, there are currently 3 individuals with authority over your primary checking and savings accounts. Yourself, your daughter Emily Brennan Morrison, and her husband Derek Morrison." "I never added Derek. He was added as a secondary authorized user 17 months ago. See here." She turned the folder so I could see it. A signature form, Emily's name in careful print, my signature at the bottom. I didn't remember signing it. "And Emily?" I asked. "She was added 19 months ago under similar circumstances." 19 months. Right after the divorce finalized. "What about the house?" I asked. Sandra hesitated. "I'm sorry? My house, the deed. Is it in my name?" "Mr. Brennan, I can only discuss account-related matters." "Then discuss them." She folded her hands on the desk. "Yesterday evening, we received a request from Mrs. Morrison to restrict your access to the accounts pending a competency evaluation." The room tilted again. Same sensation as last night, like the floor had decided to become optional. A competency evaluation. "Yes. For what?" "The request cited concerns about your mental state and decision-making ability." "Based on what?" "I'm not privy to the specific details. That would be between you and Mrs. Morrison. She's my daughter, not my keeper. She has legal authority to request this review. Because I signed a piece of paper I don't remember during the worst 6 months of my life." Sandra's expression softened slightly. "Mr. Brennan, I understand this is difficult, but the bank has an obligation to protect the interests of all account holders. When there are questions about competency, I'm competent. Then the evaluation will confirm that. Who does the evaluation? Typically a licensed psychiatrist or psychologist. The process usually takes 3 to 5 business days to arrange. And until then? Until then, the restriction remains in place. I leaned back in the chair. The fake leather squeaked. So I have no access to my money. You have access to a daily limit of $200 through ATM withdrawal. Beyond that, you'll need authorization from one of the secondary account holders. My daughter or her husband? Correct. The same people who requested the freeze. Restriction? Same people who think I'm incompetent. Sandra didn't answer. I stood up. Is there anything else? Mr. Brennan, is there anything else? She hesitated. Then, the evaluation can be scheduled as early as Monday if you're willing to cooperate. And if I'm not? Then the restriction remains indefinitely or until the secondary account holders choose to lift it. I walked out of her office, through the lobby, past Brianna the teller who was very carefully not looking at me. Outside, the November air felt like broken glass in my lungs. I sat in my car and tried to think. $200 a day from the ATM, $83 in my wallet. The motel was $60 a night, which meant I had maybe 5 days before I'd need to start making actual decisions. I pulled out my phone and turned it on. 17 text messages, 6 voicemails, all from Emily and Jason and Derek. I didn't read them, didn't listen. Instead, I opened my contacts and scrolled to the A's. Alan Porter, old co-worker from the inspection office. We'd worked together for 8 years before he'd retired and moved to Colorado to be near his grandkids. We'd kept in touch sporadically, birthday cards, occasional emails. He'd sent me a bottle of whiskey when Linda left, which I'd poured down the sink during my sobriety moment. I hit call. He picked up on the 3rd ring. Richard? That you? Yeah. Well, hell, thought you'd forgotten about me. How's life in the old grind? Complicated. Isn't it always? I heard background noise. Television, maybe. What's going on? I told him. Not everything. The condensed version. Divorce, documents, daughter, bank freeze. He was quiet for a long moment after I finished. Then, Jesus, Richard? Yeah. You get a lawyer? Can't afford one. Accounts are frozen. What about that legal aid place downtown? They do free consultations. I'll look into it. Another pause. Then, you need money, I can wire you something. I'm not asking for money. I know you're not. That's why I'm offering. My throat felt tight. I'm okay for now. You sure? Yeah. Well, offer stands. You need anything? You call me. And Richard? Yeah? Don't let them make you feel crazy. You're not crazy. You're just dealing with people who think caring means controlling. After we hung up, I sat in the bank parking lot for another 10 minutes. Then I drove to the county records office. The building was downtown, a converted courthouse with marble floors and ceilings that echoed. I took a number from the dispenser and waited in hard plastic chairs that were somehow less comfortable than the motel bed. My number was called 20 minutes later. The clerk was a man in his 60s with reading glasses on a chain. How can I help you? I need to see the deed for a property. Address? I gave him my address, the house where I'd lived for 14 years, where I'd raised my kids, where apparently I no longer had any legal standing. He typed into his computer, clicked a few times, frowned. Here we are. Would you like a copy? Yes. He printed it out and slid it across the counter. I looked at the names under owners, Emily Brennan Morrison and Derek Morrison. Not me. When was this filed? I asked. He checked the screen. Looks like 14 months ago. 4 months after I'd supposedly signed the banking documents. 2 months after I'd stopped drinking. Who filed it? The property was transferred via quitclaim deed, signed by Richard Brennan, notarized by— He squinted at the screen. Patricia Vance, public notary. Where? Morrison and Associates Legal Group. Derek's firm. Of course, I paid for the copy, $3, which the clerk accepted in cash, and walked out. In my car, I read the document 3 times, quitclaim deed. I'd signed away the house, no money exchanged, no sale, just a transfer of ownership from me to them. There was my signature at the bottom, witnessed and notarized. I didn't remember signing it, but there it was, my handwriting, my name. I pulled out my phone and looked up Morrison and Associates Legal Group, small firm, 3 attorneys, specializing in estate planning and family law. Derek was listed as a junior partner. I called. A receptionist answered. Morrison and Associates, how may I direct your call? I'd like to speak with Patricia Vance. Ms. Vance is our notary, not an attorney. May I ask what this is regarding? A document she notarized. Hold, please. Muzak. 90 seconds. Then a woman's voice, brisk and professional. This is Patricia Vance. Ms. Vance, my name is Richard Brennan. You notarized a quitclaim deed for me 14 months ago. A pause. I notarize many documents, Mr. Brennan. Do you have a case number or date? I gave her the date from the deed. Another pause, longer this time. I'm not sure how I can help you. I don't remember signing that document. I'm sorry? I don't remember signing it. I don't remember meeting you. I don't remember being at your office. Mr. Brennan, I can assure you that all notarizations at this firm are conducted in accordance with state law. I verified your identity through government-issued photo ID, and I personally witnessed you sign the document. What kind of ID? I'm sorry? What kind of ID did I show you? She hesitated. I would have to check my records. Can you check them now? Mr. Brennan, if you're disputing the validity of a notarization, you'll need to file a formal complaint with— I'm not disputing, I'm asking. And I'm telling you that I followed proper procedure. If you have concerns, I suggest you speak with the attorney who prepared the document. Derek Morrison. Another pause. This one felt different. Are you related to Mr. Morrison? He's my son-in-law. I see. Her voice went flat. Then I think it would be best if you discussed this matter with him directly. Good day, Mr. Brennan. She hung up. I sat in the parking lot of the records office, holding my phone, staring at the quitclaim deed. They'd planned this. Not impulsively, not out of concern. They'd systematically taken everything. Bank accounts, house, medical authority. And they'd done it while I was drinking myself numb in the wreckage of my marriage. My phone buzzed. Text from Emily. Dad, where are you? Derek talked to the bank. You just need to cooperate with the evaluation and everything will go back to normal. I typed back. What's normal? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Normal is, you stop acting paranoid and let us help you. Help me with what? With whatever's making you behave this way. I stared at the message. Then I opened a new text to Jason. Did you know about the house? The response came fast. Emily handles that stuff. That's not an answer. It's not my business. It's my house. Was. I threw the phone onto the passenger seat. Was. Past tense. My son didn't even pretend to care. I started the car and drove. No destination. Just motion. I ended up at a hardware store on the east side, a big box place that sold everything from lumber to light bulbs. I walked the aisles without purpose, letting muscle memory guide me. I'd spent years in places like this, buying materials for home repairs, comparison shopping for the best price on drill bits and sandpaper. In the tool section, I ran into someone I knew. Frank Delgado, former co-worker from the inspection office back before he'd moved to private sector work. We'd done site visits together, shared lunches, complained about paperwork. Richard, holy shit, man. How long has it been? 3 years? 4? Too long. He clapped me on the shoulder. You still with the city? Yeah. Still doing buildings? When they let me. He laughed. Same old bureaucracy, huh? I don't miss that part. You should come work private. The money's better. The stress is less. I'll think about it. You look tired, man. Everything okay? Long week. I hear that. He glanced at his watch. Listen, I gotta run, but we should grab a beer sometime. You still at the same number? Yeah. I'll text you. He wouldn't. We both knew it. But the lie was comfortable. After he left, I stood in the power tools section, staring at a wall of drills. I thought about Frank, about Alan in Colorado, about all the people I'd worked with, talked to, shared space with over the years. How many of them would believe me if I told them what was happening? How many would think I was paranoid, unstable, exactly the kind of person who needed adult children to manage his affairs? I picked up a cordless drill, set it down, picked up a level, set it down. The security guard at the front of the store was watching me. I walked out empty-handed. In the parking lot, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mr. Brennan, this is attorney Linda Vasquez. I've been retained by your daughter Emily Morrison regarding some family matters. I was hoping we could schedule a time to talk. About what? About resolving this situation in a way that's best for everyone involved. Best for everyone or best for Emily? A pause. Mr. Brennan, I understand you're upset, but I think if we could sit down and have a calm conversation, tell Emily I'll talk to her directly. She's concerned that direct conversation isn't productive right now. That's not my problem. Mr. Brennan, I hung up. Immediately, the phone rang again. Different number. I answered. Richard, it's Derek. We need to talk. No, we don't. Yes, we do. This situation is spiraling and you stole my house. I didn't steal anything. You transferred it voluntarily. I don't remember transferring it. That's concerning, Richard. That's exactly the kind of memory lapse that suggests... Suggests what? That I'm incompetent? That I need you and Emily to run my life? That you need help? I need you to give me back my property. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. Richard, listen to me. I know you're angry, but Emily is in tears. She thinks she's lost you. She's trying to do the right thing, and you're making her feel like the villain. She is the villain. She's your daughter, who stole my house and froze my bank accounts. To protect you. From what? From yourself. I ended the call and turned off the phone. My hands were shaking. I sat in the hardware store parking lot, surrounded by people loading lumber and paint cans into their trucks, living their normal lives, dealing with their normal problems. And I thought about what Derek had said. Memory lapse. I didn't remember signing the quitclaim deed. I didn't remember signing the banking documents. But I must have. My signature was right there, notarized and legal. Had I been that drunk? That depressed? Or had I been something else? Trusting, stupid, weak. I started the car and drove back to the motel. The same clerk was at the desk, still not looking up. In my room, I lay on the bed and stared at the water-stained ceiling until the shape stopped looking like continents and started looking like nothing at all. Patterson was right. It got worse. Thursday morning, I woke up to a text from an unknown number. This is attorney Linda Vasquez. I represent Emily Morrison. We've been informed that you've retained counsel and are planning to file legal action. We'd like to avoid court if possible. Please have your attorney contact me to discuss settlement. I forwarded the message to Patterson. He texted back, "Don't respond. Let me handle it." At noon, Derek called. I let it go to voicemail. The message he left was short and cold. You're making a mistake, Richard. Lawyers won't fix this. They'll just make it more expensive for everyone. Call me. Let's be adults about this. I deleted it. That afternoon, I went back to the house. This time, I didn't just sit across the street. I parked in the driveway and walked to the front door. My key still worked. Inside, the house felt wrong. Furniture moved, pictures changed, the smell different, Emily's candles instead of my old coffee maker. I walked through the rooms slowly. The living room had new curtains. The kitchen had been repainted. My office, the small bedroom I'd used for paperwork and storage, was now empty except for boxes labeled donations. I opened one. Inside were my things: books, tools, framed photos of Emily and Jason as kids. I heard a car in the driveway, Emily's voice, talking to someone on the phone. I walked back to the front door and met her as she came in. She froze. "Dad, what are you doing here? It's my house. You don't live here anymore." "The deed is invalid, Emily. You know that. We're fixing it." "No, you're not, because I'm not signing anything." She set down her purse, carefully, like she was trying to stay calm. "We need to talk. We talked on Wednesday. That didn't go well." "No, it didn't. Dad, please. I don't want to fight you." "Then stop trying to control me. I'm trying to help you. You keep saying that, but everything you've done has made things worse." Emily's expression cracked. "Do you have any idea how hard this has been for me, watching you fall apart after the divorce, worrying every day that you were going to hurt yourself, trying to keep you safe when you wouldn't even admit you needed help? I didn't need the kind of help you gave me. You needed something, and we gave you what we could. You gave me what Derek told you to give me. Derek loves you. Derek loves control. There's a difference." She stepped closer. "Listen to me. I am your daughter, not Derek, me. And every decision I made, every single one, was because I love you and I couldn't stand watching you destroy yourself. I wasn't destroying myself, I was grieving. I stopped. After we intervened. After I decided to stop, you didn't help. You just took advantage of my weakness." Emily's face flushed. "That's not fair. None of this is fair." The next 2 weeks were a blur of paperwork and preparation. Patterson deposed Emily, then Derek, then the notary, Patricia Vance. I wasn't allowed to be present, but Patterson summarized afterward. Emily cried through most of her deposition, insisted she'd only wanted to help, said she still loved me. Derek was smooth, controlled, presented himself as the rational adult trying to manage a difficult situation. Patricia Vance was defensive, insisted she'd followed proper procedure, couldn't explain why I didn't remember the notarization. Patterson subpoenaed the therapy records from Dr. Morrison. Turned out Dr. Morrison didn't exist. The billing address was a registered agent service. The practice had no physical location. The phone number went to a voicemail that was never returned. Someone created a fake therapist to generate documentation, Patterson told me. The question is who? Derek. Probably, but proving it is another matter. We filed a motion to dismiss the conservatorship petition based on fraudulent evidence. Emily's attorney filed a counter-motion arguing that even without the therapy records, there was sufficient evidence of my prior instability to warrant oversight. The judge scheduled oral arguments for the day before the main hearing. I spent those 2 weeks in the motel, eating badly and sleeping worse. Alan called from Colorado. "How are you holding up?" "I'm not. You need to come out here, get away from all this for a while." "I can't. The hearing's in 3 days. After the hearing, then. We'll see." I didn't tell him that I had no idea what would happen after the hearing, whether I'd still have access to my accounts, whether I'd be under conservatorship, whether I'd have anything left to build a life with. The morning of the oral arguments, I put on the same jacket I'd worn to Emily's wedding and drove to the courthouse. Patterson met me outside. "Ready?" "No." "Good. That means you're taking this seriously." Inside, the courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, a judge's bench that looked like it had been built in the 70s and never updated. Emily and Derek sat on the other side with their attorney, Linda Vasquez. Emily looked at me once. I didn't look back. The judge, a woman in her 60s named Barbara Chen, no relation to Dr. Margaret Chen, called the hearing to order. We're here on the matter of Morrison v. Brennan, specifically addressing the petitioner's motion for conservatorship and the respondent's motion to dismiss. Counselors, keep it brief. Ms. Vasquez, you're up. Linda Vasquez stood. Your Honor, this is a straightforward matter of adult children trying to protect their father from his own deteriorating judgment. Mr. Brennan has a documented history of alcohol abuse, depression, and self-destructive behavior. His children intervened by establishing legal safeguards, which Mr. Brennan now claims were fraudulent, despite having signed them voluntarily. What about the therapy records? Judge Chen asked. We've withdrawn those as evidence pending further investigation. However, we maintain that the other documentation, bank records showing excessive alcohol purchases, statements from family members, the garage incident, is sufficient to demonstrate need for oversight. Mr. Patterson? Patterson stood. Your Honor, this case is about control, not protection. The so-called safeguards my client's children established were implemented while he was grieving a divorce and struggling with temporary depression, a normal human response to major life upheaval. He sought no help because he didn't need help. He stopped drinking on his own. He returned to work. He rebuilt his life. And in response, his daughter and son-in-law systematically stripped him of his autonomy through documents he doesn't remember signing. He signed them, Vasquez interrupted. Under circumstances we're still investigating, Patterson said. But even if the signatures are valid, that doesn't justify conservatorship. My client is 51 years old, employed, cognitively intact, and has been evaluated by a licensed psychiatrist who found no evidence of impairment. Judge Chen looked at her notes. The psychiatric evaluation from Dr. Margaret Chen indicates the respondent is currently competent. Correct, Patterson said, but it also notes, quote, periods of past instability, which he overcame without assistance, or with the assistance of his children's intervention. Patterson hesitated. That's one interpretation. It's the interpretation the petitioners are offering. It's also convenient for them, Your Honor. Judge Chen leaned back. Here's my concern, Mr. Patterson. Even if we set aside the questionable therapy records, there's documentation of concerning behavior, bank records showing alcohol purchases, family testimony about the garage incident, a pattern of isolation and deteriorating self-care. That's not nothing. It's also not conservatorship-level impairment. That's for me to decide. Patterson nodded. Of course, Your Honor. I'm simply asking that you consider the timing and context. My client's children didn't intervene during his period of instability. They waited until after he'd recovered, then used that period as justification to take control of his assets. They claim they intervened during the instability. They claim a lot of things that don't match the documented timeline. Vasquez stood again. Your Honor, if I may. You may not. I've heard enough for now. Judge Chen shuffled papers. I'm denying the motion to dismiss. The conservatorship petition will proceed to a full hearing tomorrow. Both sides will have the opportunity to present witnesses and evidence. I want medical records, financial records, and any documentation related to the garage incident. Clear? Yes, Your Honor, Vasquez and Patterson said in unison. Good. We're adjourned. The gavel came down. Outside the courtroom, Patterson pulled me aside. She didn't dismiss it. I noticed. That's not great. It means she thinks there's enough evidence to warrant a hearing. So what do? We prepare. We get Dr. Chen to testify. We get your work records showing you've been performing your job. We find holes in their timeline and we exploit them. What about the garage? What about it? What if it really happened? Patterson looked at me carefully. Did it? I don't know. I don't remember. Then we focus on what you do remember, and we make their version sound less credible than yours. He walked away to make phone calls. I sat on a bench outside the courthouse and tried to breathe. Derek and Emily walked past. Derek didn't look at me. Emily did. Her eyes were red. I didn't feel sorry for her. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the hearing, the judge's skepticism, Patterson's growing concern, the possibility that I might actually lose. At 3 a.m, I got up and drove to the house. I parked in the driveway and sat there. Lights were off. Everyone was asleep. I walked to the garage. The side door was unlocked. Inside, it smelled like motor oil and dust. My workbench was still there, covered in Emily's gardening supplies now. My tools were gone. I stood in the spot where the car would have been, tried to remember, engine running, door closed, sitting in the driver's seat, Emily breaking the window, Jason pulling me out. Nothing. The memory wouldn't come. Either it had never happened, or I'd buried it so deep that I'd never get it back. I didn't know which was worse. I left the garage and drove back to the motel. Tomorrow was the hearing. Tomorrow, I'd find out if I still had a life worth living.